What's up, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Having a little fun this week. Decided to do a ranking list of the greatest Champions League goal scorers in history. We are in the midst of another Champions League European week. Bit of a boring one, not too many standout fixtures. We saw Arsenal obviously have a great win over Atletico Madrid, but again, that just shows how good Arsenal are right now and how Atletico really aren't the team that they once were. Liverpool had their bounce back win, a really comfortable win for Chelsea. Spurs continue to disappoint. Real Madrid steal a win late on against Juventus. But on the whole, pretty predictable week, pretty boring week. So I thought, why not have some fun? Why not delve into history just a little bit? So to qualify for this list, you have to have scored at least 40 goals since 1992 when the European Cup became the Champions League. And the tiers in this list are going to be GOAT, Elite, Underrated, Overrated, and Faker. And believe it or not, there's quite a few who belong in the Faker category. Let's just kick things off. Keep it super simple. Cristiano Ronaldo. Faker? I don't think so. He's right up there. The GOAT. He is the GOAT Champions League goal scorer. 141 total goals, number one in history. 42 goals in the quarterfinals or later, also number one in history. 67 goals in knockouts total, number one in history. Iconic goals, yeah, he's got them. Porto from long range, header against Chelsea in the final, bicycle kick versus Juventus. The list goes on and on. Ronaldo is the GOAT Champions League goal scorer. And then, of course, we got to talk Messi. He's right up there too. Obviously, also belongs in the GOAT category. He scored so many iconic goals. I think you look at that. I always draw my eyes. I always go back to that header against Manchester United in the Champions League final. I'm a sucker for a great header, and I just think that goal, that was like him really like elevating himself, really putting himself on the map. That goal was just insane, and obviously the boot coming off and kissing it afterwards, all just so iconic. You think about sitting Jerome Boateng on his ass. You think about that dribbling goal against Real Madrid. So many iconic moments from Messi, so many iconic goals. Absolutely belongs in the GOAT tier. These two I could have done a whole video just talking about how great these two guys are, but we're just going to keep it short and sweet on them, because if you don't know how great these two guys are already, then why are you even watching this video? Then, next up, we've got Mr. Robert Lewandowski, and I mean, I guess you could make the argument that he belongs up there alongside Ronaldo and Messi in the GOAT tier. He is the only other guy with over 100 goals in the Champions League. Only 15 in the knockout stages. Not great considering the teams that he's played for, the levels that he's been at. You think he'd maybe have a little bit more. So I think he's just a great all-time great scorer, but I think he is the first member of the elite tier. I don't think he quite belongs in the GOAT tier, although I could see the argument that some might make, especially as a Bayern Munich fan, even a Dortmund fan, and maybe even a Barcelona fan. Like this guy scores goals wherever he goes. Last season, who knows if he had been being fit in that semi-final, maybe he would have been able to add that little extra bit to get Barca over the line and into the final. We just don't know, but I think the elite tier is fair for him. Not quite at the level of Ronaldo and Messi, but without doubt, all-time great goal scorer, especially in the Champions League. 105 total goals, third overall. Next up, Karim Benzema. This was a tough one because he's had a lot of iconic moments. 17 goals in the quarterfinals or later. That is the third most overall of any player in the Champions League. Just 3 behind Lionel Messi, which is very impressive. He's got goals in finals, goals in semis and quarters. He's done it all. Was part of that incredibly dominant Real Madrid side. I mean, there's so much like he could easily be up there in that GOAT tier. I would totally respect anyone who believes he should get bumped up. I think for me, I'm gonna have him in the elite tier, but Benzema, elite center forward. Watching him play was always such a joy. The break we got to see him in the Champions League. You maybe didn't, if you're like me, you maybe didn't watch enough for Liga to see him week in, week out. But when those Champions League nights came around, you always just appreciated him that bit more. But I think elite tier is fair for him. He is an elite goal scorer. Not quite at the level of Ronaldo and Messi, but think of some of the goals he scored think of his quality, especially in those couple of years after Ronaldo left, and we really got to appreciate him that bit more. Just a beautiful, beautiful football player. Next up, we have Raul, and this one is a tough one because obviously he was the lead guy for a while, and then the Benzema and Lewandowski and Messi and Ronaldo came along and took that crown away from him. But looking at his stats and looking at the goals and who he scored against and where he really did his best work, although he has some goals in finals, he is obviously a Champions League winner. He's tied fifth with just 13 knockout goals. I just expect more from a guy who had 71 total Champions League goals, and like I get, like most seasons you're going to play more group games than anything else, but I would just expect that a little bit more, and that's why I think it's fair to slip Raul in the overrated tier. I just don't think he is at the level of the guys. Some other guys still on the list, and obviously I don't think he's anywhere close to the guys that we see already on this list in the elite and go category. Some might argue that he belongs in the underrated mark. Some also might argue he belongs in the faker mark. I think overrated is a perfect position for him. 71 goals, still an impressive total, but when you really look deeper into those stats and you really look into his performances and goals in the latter stages of the competition, I think overrated is a good fit for him. Next up, Mr. Ruud van Nistelrooy. I just have to start this off by saying I think Ruud van Nistelrooy is one of the all-time great goal scorers. You're talking about someone that fox in the box, that clinical, selfish forward. Like a guy, you go, I just need a goal. I want Ruud van Nistelrooy one-on-one with the goalkeeper. That's just a fact. Ruud van Nistelrooy is one of the all-time great predators, great goal scorers. One of the greats in Premier League history. Obviously, his record for Manchester United was very impressive. But he's got 60 goals in the Champions League, which is a damn good return. But the problem is, he never really did it in the latter stages of the Champions League. He never really did the things that some of the other guys in this list did. He only scored 4 goals in the quarterfinals or later, and 2 of them came in one season in the Champions League. This guy just didn't do it, didn't step up when things really got serious in the Champions League, never reached the final despite playing for a prime Manchester United team and Real Madrid. When it came to the Champions League, this guy really did most of his work in the group stage. Just not a guy that stepped up to the level that you would expect and that you would think about. Like looking back now, like you think about Ruud van Nistelrooy and you think about an elite goal scorer. You think about his great moments in the Premier League, but the Champions League, it just didn't quite translate. So for Ruud, I'm sorry, but I love you. I'm a Manchester United fan. I remember the greatness of Ruud van Nistelrooy, but when it comes to Champions League goal scoring, he is the first member of the faker group here. This is it's just the way that it has to be for Ruud. Unfortunately, you're a faker, man. Your goals tell a different story than the type of goal scorer you actually were in the Champions League. It's as simple as that. Next up, we have just the second active Champions League player on the list so far. It's Kylian Mbappe. And, of course, Mbappe, one of the all-time greats already. He's going to ultimately maybe elevate himself up to that GOAT tier. He is so talented. He does score goals for fun. Already has 24 goals in 36 knockout games. Already has 8 goals in the quarterfinals or later. I think he's right on the verge of winning multiple Champions League trophies with Real Madrid. I think that's going to come too. Mbappe, I think, already has 60 goals. This guy is still so young, still so much he's going to achieve in the Champions League, and he's already done so much. I think he belongs alongside Robert Lewandowski and Karim Benzema in the elite tier. Some might get a bit aggressive here and maybe drop him down to the overrated tier, but I think he's done a lot for his age so far. He's going to do a lot more, and I think he already has done enough to say that he is an elite Champions League goal scorer. And I think when it's all said and done, we could come back here 2, 3, 4 years, and he might already be up there in the GOAT conversation when we're talking goal scorers in the Champions League. This guy got 60 goals right now. Who knows? That might already be up to 70 by the end of this Champions League season, and he might already be right on the heels of Raul and moving right up there towards Benzema and Lewandowski. Mbappe, there's like so little to say. Elite goal scorer, and yeah, he's where he's belong. I'd like to let me know in the comments what you guys think. Am I rating him too highly? Is it too soon to put a guy like him into the elite tier? You guys let me know in the comments. Next up is a very interesting one. Andrei Shevchenko. He kind of gets a little bit forgotten and also a little bit like questioned. Like, this is a guy who won the Ballon d'Or. Andrei Shevchenko was a high quality striker, played in that prime Inter Milan team of the early 2000s, won the Champions League in 2003, had some great moments in the Champions League, and this is one that I really debated in a number of different categories. I mean, you could make the argument for underrated, you could make the argument for overrated, you could even make the argument for faker maybe if you wanted to. But if you look at it a little bit more, he was a very good Champions League goal scorer in his prime. I know people kind of have soured on him. Obviously, that stint with Chelsea didn't go well, and his career kind of went off the tracks after that. But at AC Milan, he was a really good Champions League goal scorer. He was always performing in the Champions League. He was always playing into the latter stages of the competition. An impressive 18 goals in 32 knockout games. That's a record that can't be balked at. 13 goals in the quarterfinals or later. That's tied 5th all time. I think Andrei Shevchenko is perfect for the underrated tier. I think people need to maybe just go back and watch some of his highlights from his AC Milan days. Forget about those Chelsea struggles and what came after that. At AC Milan, Andrei Shevchenko was a legit striker. He was a guy who knew where the back of the net was, and he found it in the obvious moments where you expected to, and also in the crucial moments in the quarterfinals, in the semifinals. This guy was able to step up with really important goals. Obviously, a Champions League winner, more than worthy of the underrated tier. And if you don't know much about Andrei Shevchenko, please go back and watch some of his highlights. I'm telling you, you'll be impressed. Next up, Thomas Muller. And I think as soon as I just say the name Thomas Muller, you guys all know where he's going. It's obviously the underrated tier. Everything about Thomas Muller is underrated. He is one of the most consistent performers we have seen in football over the last 20 years. Never anything overly spectacular, but always there to score a goal, always there doing the dog work for his team. Represented Germany impressively, scored goals for Bayern Munich for fun. Ultimately, he got 13, tied 5th with Shevchenko, 13 in the quarterfinals or later. Obviously, a Champions League winner. 57 goals total in the Champions League. One of the all-time great performers. He's there every year, and he's the type of guy that you're never expecting, but will always end up scoring a goal against your team. Muller, just such a great player, and I wish he got more recognition than he does. He is just criminally underrated. So, I mean, yeah, he has to belong in the underrated category for sure. Next up, we've got Erling Haaland. Now, this is an interesting one because I think you could make the arguments that he's right up there on par with someone like a Kylian Mbappe. Has achieved so much despite still being so young. But I don't think he's quite at the level that Mbappe is at. We've seen him win Champions League. That's something we haven't seen Kylian Mbappe do. But despite his 54 Champions League goals, obviously added another one last night against Villarreal, and he's going to continue to add to that number over the years. He hasn't really performed in the knockouts as you would have liked to see from a guy like Erling Haaland. He has just 4 goals in the quarterfinals or later. He's really done most of his damage in the group stage in the last 16 against lesser opponents. He's usually been that top seed going against a lesser team in those last 16 games. No doubt a great goal scorer. No doubt a guy who is going to rise up this list. Trust me. I know for a fact, like I said with Mbappe, we come back here 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, he could easily be not only in up into the elite tier or maybe even up at the level of the GOAT tier. But for now, I think Erling Haaland belongs in the overrated tier. He needs to do more in the latter stages. Like we know, Erling Haaland is one of the great goal scorers. You see him. We've seen it this year. You give him chances, and he will score. He just has to do it more in the latter stages of the competition, and then he rises up this list. That's just simple as. Goal scoring is not just about doing it when you're expected to. It's about stepping up in those crucial moments in the quarterfinals, in the semifinals, in the finals to get your team over the line. That's what the greatest goal scorers do. And Erling Haaland just needs to show that just a little bit more, and then we get to see him rise up this list. Next up, Mr. Mo Salah. And this was another guy that some people, maybe even Liverpool fans, might even think he belongs up there in the elite tier or the GOAT tier. And if we're talking about the Premier League, I'd probably have him in those conversations. But then in the Champions League, it's just not quite the same for Mo Salah. He is another guy that really loves to do it against lesser teams in the group stages in the last 16. He has 52 Champions League goals. That's a pretty good number for a winger. And a guy who really kind of only popped on the scene back in like the 2017-2018 season. This guy has been incredible for Liverpool. One of the all-time great goal scorers in the Premier League. But he hasn't quite done it to the same extent in the Champions League. And like if I talk to you about Mo Salah, I'm like, name me an iconic Champions League goal he scores, and like I'm blanking. I mean, maybe some Liverpool fans in the comments can list off a few for me, but I can like think of iconic goals that Steven Gerrard scored for Liverpool in the Champions League. I can think of an iconic goal even David Origi scored in the Champions League, Mane, Firmino, but I can't think of any from Mo Salah. So I think that's why he belongs. Maybe he could have gone. I could have slipped him down to Faker, but I'm going to put him into the overrated tier. More penalties than you would like, especially in knockout stages. And then you look at the likes of some of the other guys that he's kind of competing with: Wayne Rooney, Kevin De Bruyne, Sadio Mane, Frank Lampard, Arjen Robben. They all have more knockout goals than Mo Salah, despite all scoring significantly less total goals in the Champions League. And that's just a sign of why Mo Salah belongs in the overrated tier. He is just not in the conversation with the guys we see in the underrated, elite, and GOAT tier. Yeah, I'm sure Liverpool fans will probably have something to say here, but when it comes to Champions League goal scoring, if you really think about it, Mo Salah is without doubt one of the most overrated Champions League goal scorers for sure. Next up on the list, Thierry Henry. Many consider him the greatest striker in Premier League history. Many consider him one of the greatest players in the history of football. And while I don't quite get into all of that, he is extremely talented. He was elite in the Premier League, obviously 175 goals there. And an impressive number in the Champions League as well, 51 total goals. But again, just like I said with Ruud van Nistelrooy, really didn't do it enough in the latter stages of the competition. And I'm sure some Arsenal fans might go back to that 2005-2006 run that he had and the goal against Real Madrid and different things like that. But he just doesn't belong in the conversation with some of the great Champions League goal scorers. Only 4 goals in the quarterfinals or later. That's tied for 9th. Pretty unimpressive. Just a guy again who really only did it in the early stages of the Champions League. Never really took that leap when it was really required for his team. Obviously ended up getting a Champions League medal when he moved to Barcelona, but let's not exaggerate his role in that team. He was playing second fiddle to not only Lionel Messi but also Samuel Eto'o in that forward line. So I think it feels weird to say this, but when it comes to the Champions League, Thierry Henry, you're a faker. You belong in that faker category. You just have not done it to the level that you, I guess, should have. We'd expect. We think about all those iconic moments in the Premier League. So many Golden Boots, so many Player of the Year awards. You were amazing. You were the guy. but it just didn't translate into the Champions League, and unfortunately, that makes you a faker. Next up, a very interesting one. Another guy that a lot of people might forget about, Filippo Inzaghi. I obviously remember the iconic 2007 final, those two goals he got against Liverpool, two really nice finishes. I just love the look of those goals, and obviously as a Manchester United fan, watching them do that against Liverpool made me really happy. And of course, the fact that AC Milan knocked Manchester United out of the competition that year kind of makes you feel a little bit better when you know the team that knocked you out goes on to win it all. There's no shame in losing to the best. But Inzaghi, one of the underrated goal scorers of his time, and that is why he belongs right there in the underrated tier. Filippo Inzaghi, one of the greats for AC Milan, and 13 goals in the knockouts or later. Obviously, 2 goals to win AC Milan the Champions League final in 2007. Quality striker, knew where the goal was, just had that sixth sense in the box, and being part of that AC Milan team, like I said with Shevchenko, even doing it into like his latter stages. This guy was a goal scorer, 50 total Champions League goals. One of the more underrated guys. Again, another one that you should go back and watch and just think and make you realize that this guy really was legit, and he was just annoying. He didn't really have that aura about him. He didn't really strike fear, but if you slept on him, you left him free in the box, you knew that he was going to punish you, and he is a perfect member of that underrated tier. Next up, a man that very much had some aura, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Arguably the king of aura, maybe after Cristiano Ronaldo. Zlatan talked the talk, and for the most part, he walked the walk, just not when it came to the knockout stages of the Champions League. Famously never won a Champions League trophy, despite playing at Inter, Barcelona, PSG, Manchester United. 49 goals in the Champions League, an impressive number, without doubt, but just 4 goals in the quarterfinals or later, and just one of the all-time failures when it comes to production in the Champions League. When we're talking big games, big moments, Zlatan just wasn't there. Like as a player, I love Zlatan. Think about amazing goals he's got for Sweden, for PSG, for Barcelona, for Inter. Like, this guy was and for AC Milan as well. He was an elite striker. Did it until his late 30s, early 40s. Really great striker. One of the all-time greats. But Champions League wise, I'm sorry, he just wasn't that guy, and that's why he is a faker. Impressively, we're all tied up here with the elite to faker. We've got 3 in each category so far, and I think Zlatan, I don't think there's any argument to put him anywhere else on this list. He just didn't do it enough. He just wasn't that guy in the Champions League, and the struggles that PSG team had, his failures to really stamp his authority at Barcelona. Of course, that was Pep's fault, not his. We know that, right? Yeah, just disappointing. But I will say that I am a Zlatan guy. I did love him as a player, and I loved his attitude and the way he talked. But when it came to goal scoring in the Champions League, no doubt a faker. Next up, Sergio Aguero. Yes, Aguero scored some iconic goals, maybe the greatest goal scorer in Manchester City's history, although Erling Haaland will probably be looking to take that crown before too long. But again, another guy who really did his best work in the Champions League in the group stages and not in the knockouts. Just 1 goal for Sergio Aguero in the quarterfinals or later in the Champions League. 47 total, but really, again, another guy where it's kind of tough to think of too many iconic Champions League moments with Sergio Aguero. Obviously did have some flashes, obviously did have some moments, but just not the predator in the Champions League that he was in the Premier League. And that is why I think Sergio Aguero also belongs in the faker tier. A guy that we just didn't see enough of. We just never got the Sergio Aguero we saw in the Premier League, in the Champions League, and that is why I think he is very at home alongside the likes of Ruud van Nistelrooy, Thierry Henry, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Unfortunately, when we're talking Champions League, he's a faker. Next up, one of the all-time favourites, Didier Drogba. We obviously all remember the 2012 Champions League final, that iconic header to equalise and then scoring the winning penalty to give Chelsea their first ever Champions League crown. And then you look at his total, 44 goals, like solid number. Maybe you'd think it's a little bit higher. And then you look at his goals in knockout games, just 14. You'd maybe expect that number to be a bit higher. He was Mr. Clutch. He loved scoring in the biggest moments for Chelsea. Obviously, had such a great record scoring in finals for them. But then on the flip side of that, 11 of those 14 knockout goals were scored in the quarterfinals or later. When the lights shone brightest, Didier Drogba showed up. And that is why I am putting him in the underrated tier. It was just his clutch nature. When Chelsea needed a goal, it felt like he was always the guy that stepped up. And I don't think that's appreciated enough. I don't think we would maybe remember him enough for what he did in the Champions League. And maybe we don't remember him enough for what he did for Chelsea. Maybe we think too much about that second spell that he had with them when he was kind of past his prime and just kind of there more as a leader than anything else. But that first stint at Chelsea, he was a serious goal scorer. Obviously, 2012 was his moment. That was obviously iconic. And the goals he got in the crucial moments for Chelsea, he absolutely belongs in the underrated tier. Didn't quite score enough to elevate himself to the elite tier, but underrated for sure. Definitely belongs in a positive light. That's how we should all look back on Drogba, as only be in a positive light. A bit of a chancer, a bit of a joker, could be annoying with his diving and theatrics sometimes, but when it came to the big moments, this is a guy that always stepped up. Next one is Antoine Griezmann, and this one I've really had difficulty ranking because I don't really think of him as someone that is underrated or overrated or elite. I just don't really know what to think of him. With Griezmann, for me, I think we saw the best of him in a France jersey. I always loved watching him play for France. I thought he was consistently the best player on the pitch, even with all the superstars that he was playing with, the likes of Mbappe and Pogba and Kante and all those guys. Griezmann was consistently the best player on the pitch for France. I think we saw the best of him in a France jersey. Obviously has got a solid 44 goals in the Champions League, but just 4 in the quarterfinals or later, none in the semi-finals or final. He's just not at the level. He's just kind of consistently played in the Champions League, and that's why the goal number has kind of continued to tick up. Not quite a faker. I'm going to put him in the overrated tier. I feel like there isn't really a tier on this list where he could accurately be put as a goal scorer when it comes to the Champions League, because I don't think he's overrated. I don't think people talk up the goals that he scored. He's really just not that pure goal scorer like a lot of the other guys in this list are. He's just an all-round great footballer, and I'll always remember him as one of the great footballers. The guy is just beautiful to watch. I'll never really think of him as a goal scorer, even though he is a guy who has scored a lot of goals. But I'm going to put him in that overrated tier. But like I said, I don't really think there is a tier on this list that accurately depicts Antoine Griezmann. Next up, Harry Kane. Obviously added another goal to his total last night in Bayern Munich's comfortable win. A guy that I've obviously, when we're talking as just a goal scorer in world football, he is elite. Maybe even GOAT level goal scorer. He is one of the all-time great players. He is another guy that I just hate that he is not playing in a Manchester United jersey. Even more so, I just hate that he's still not playing in the Premier League. He's out there doing it for Bayern Munich in Germany, and England's best player right now. Why is he playing in Germany? That just grinds my gears. But in the Champions League, obviously has been good. God helped lead Spurs to a final in 2019. Has scored a lot of goals in the Champions League, 45 total. But when it comes to the knockout stages and those iconic moments in the Champions League, we just haven't seen it in the way we have in maybe the Premier League and even the Bundesliga since he's moved to Bayern Munich. So I think he is going to be capable of rising up this list. But for right now, I'm going to slip him into the overrated tier. I think we talk about him as this great goal scorer, but we haven't really seen it in the latter stages of the Champions League too much. Just 3 goals total in the quarterfinals or later. That's a pretty low number for a guy like Harry Kane, who we always believe is going to deliver. But also, he's another guy that maybe sometimes slows down as we get later into the season. And that happens a lot, and we noticed it for England too in some of the major tournaments as well. That can happen to him as well. But Harry Kane is a great goal scorer. I believe he could rise up this list, and maybe in the next year or two, while he's still banging in the goals for Bayern, he can go on a deep run with them and contribute in the latter stage of the competition, and then we could see him rise up this list. And I would love to see that happen because I'm a huge fan of Harry Kane. But for now, I think he is very accustomed there in the overrated column. All right, just 2 more to go here. Neymar is the second to last man up. This is a guy who had all the talent in the world. I mean, when it came to football, he could just do it all. He was a maverick. He was so fun to watch. He could score goals, he could dribble, he could do it all. On paper, he should be up in the GOAT tier with Ronaldo and with Messi. But unfortunately, it just didn't all come to fruition. And he got a bit too big for his boots, didn't like playing in Messi's shadow in Barcelona, went out to PSG and just could not deliver to the extent that PSG thought and to the extent that he thought that he could. Obviously, he had those iconic moments. The part of the MSN forward line, that 2015 Barcelona team was incredible to watch. He was so skilled and just like so good from a young age. He was just doing things that we forget, like we see like Lamine Yamal doing now at an even younger age, and it's so impressive. But like Neymar was doing this before that, and Neymar's kind of a guy that we kind of forget about a little bit already, even though it wasn't too long ago that we were being mesmerized by him. But just the way that his kind of career has dipped off with injuries and little things now, just so disappointing. 8 goals in the quarterfinals or later, but zero after leaving Barcelona for PSG. And that's what's really disappointing. He just never could replicate it when the pressure was really on his shoulders. He just couldn't replicate the form that he showed at Barcelona. And obviously, I don't know if he'll ever admit it, but I'm sure he probably regrets making that move. Some guys just think they're better than they are, and then they ultimately get found out. And unfortunately, that is what has happened to Neymar, and that is why I think he belongs in the faker category. Neymar was so talented. Obviously, iconic moments, being part of that MSN forward line. Like I said, one of the probably the great trio in Champions League history. But the way he fell off when he went to PSG, his inability to deliver in the big moments for PSG, I think that's why he belongs in the faker category. 43 total goals, a pretty good number for a guy who wasn't all about goal scoring. He was more of a creative outlet as well. But I just think he really disappointed at PSG, and that's why he has fallen into the faker category. And last but not least, number 21 on this list, Alessandro Del Piero. Another guy that people are probably going to forget about. I feel like it's weirdly easy to forget players from like Serie A or just Italian players on the whole. I feel like that happens a lot. The Serie A is kind of a slept on league. It's kind of a forgotten about league. They had these like their dominance in like the late 90s and early 2000s, but over the last like decade there hasn't really been too much of that, even though Juventus have obviously got to a few finals and now Inter as well. But the Serie A, I feel like, is a very much a slept on league. But Del Piero was a bit of an enigma, one of the more talented players at Juventus, and a guy that was kind of slept on a little bit talent wise. I think Manchester United tried to buy him at one stage. That would have been interesting if he had made that move, but obviously stayed loyal to Juventus even after they were relegated to Serie B, and like he did some great things in Champions League. Obviously, only the 7 goals in the quarterfinals or later, but an impressive 5 goals in just 6 Champions League semi-finals. Got to the final in 2003 with Juventus. They obviously came up short, so he never won a Champions League medal, but a really quality forward, and a little bit like Griezmann, wasn't all about goal scoring, was that creative kind of second striker sort of player. But I think the damage that he did in semi-finals and like important moments like that, I think that's why he belongs in the underrated tier. I know that feels like a cop out, the fact that I put Griezmann overrated and I've bumped up Del Piero into underrated, but I think his production in the semi-finals, reaching that final with Juventus, I think that's why he belongs in the underrated tier. Not again another guy. Maybe just go back and watch some of his highlights and you'll really see the kind of player that he was. But yeah, that's our list. What do you guys think? GOAT tier: Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. Elite tier: Robert Lewandowski, Karim Benzema, Kylian Mbappe. Underrated tier: Andrei Shevchenko, Thomas Muller, Filippo Inzaghi, Didier Drogba, Alessandro Del Piero. Overrated, we got Raul, Erling Haaland, Mo Salah, Antoine Griezmann and Harry Kane. And then the fakers: Ruud van Nistelrooy, Thierry Henry, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Sergio Aguero and Neymar. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Another Champions League week in the books. And this is just the beginning. I'm going to be doing fun stuff like this. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing. And I'll catch you all next time.